Initially, KENET, we started off with the use of OpenVZ Linux containers running on Proxmox environment. We also had a setup of FreeBSD gels and also had an environment of VMware in our data centers. This was in about 2010. So later on, we moved our internal systems to Ganeti. In about 2015, 2016, we started the shift and we moved the Proxmox servers and also the FreeBSD gels. So we decommissioned those two environments and we maintained the VMware environment. So what is the current outlook of the KENET Community Cloud? We operate three Tier 3 data centers, and we have them running VMware, and we also have servers on Ganeti. So we have 40 virtualization nodes, of which 6 nodes are on VMware, and we have the rest 34 on Ganeti. Of the nodes that are on VMware, we run 223 virtual machines, some for internal systems and some for our member community. And on the Ganeti cluster, we have 322 instances running across the nodes that are on Ganeti. So KENET also operates some research infrastructures for our community to serve the research community and the faculty. We have a virtual lab, that's vlab.ac.ke. Basically, the virtual lab also runs on Ganeti with CNEFO as the management tool for the cluster. And the purpose of the virtual lab, which was born in about 2016, 2017, was to provide the research community with a platform to deploy various tools, either those who needed infrastructure or also provide platform as a service to them, and provide also storage for those researchers who needed large amounts of storage for their data. So that's when the virtual lab was born. And KENET also offers federation authentication in partnership with, we have several partners. We have CHPC in South Africa, and also we have the European Grid Infrastructure. And these two partners, they help our community to access various shared services, especially for the researchers, to be able to access some either compute resources or storage or research content which they would otherwise have not been able to access within their institutions. So the partnerships have been of great benefits to the research community. Other important services worth mentioning are the KENET Web Conference, which runs on the big blue button. So the KENET Web Conference basically is a free service to our community. It helps them to schedule their meetings and also conduct classes, and either through their learning management systems or just purely by scheduling meetings on the conference.ke platform. We also have the events portal. This is useful for our community also as a free service. It's useful for them to schedule workshops and forums for their institutions or even and also schedule webinars. So those are two free services we also offer to our community. So the research infrastructure partners that KENET has, as I mentioned, is a Center for High Performance Computing in Cape Town, South Africa. We have the European Grid Infrastructures. We also partner with Amazon AWS and also Microsoft Azure. And we also have partnership with IBM, where we host virtual instances of their lab in our data center. Basically, IBM has been offering capacity building to the institutions, the universities in Kenya, in areas related to computer science, in big data, Internet of Things, cybersecurity. So we've been partnering with them in the sense of hosting the infrastructure that they use for their capacity building initiatives. So now that we have seen where KENET is, We moved from using Proxmox, we moved from the FreeBSD jails, and we currently have VMware for community and some internal systems and Ganeti. As the previous presenter has highlighted, there are a few challenges in terms of using Ganeti when it's user-facing, in terms of ease of usability, in terms of lack of a web interface for the user to interact with. So we also sit down and ask ourselves, so what next? What is the future for us? What is the future? Because the end user needs a system that they'll be able to interact with ease. They can self-deploy the virtual machines. They can also have a pay-as-you-go kind of model. So how does the future outlook of KENET look like based off of what the lessons that we have learned from the time we started deploying cloud solutions, from what our user community has given us in terms of feedback? So where are we? So we are looking at solutions that will consolidate virtualization platform, excuse me, have a homogeneous platform where users can self-provision their virtual servers, where they can select the resources in terms of the compute and the storage that they want, and where there is centralized management and ease of operation for the end user. So the challenges that we have faced with the solutions that we have gone through in deploying cloud infrastructure, one, the learning curve, and the skill set, both at on the client side and the service provider. Of course, we've had the challenge of costing. The hardware and procuring of hardware, including servers and the storage, is quite high. So that has also been a challenge for us, and especially for things like storage. After a period like of 5 years, the storage becomes obsolete, and you see the cost keeps going high. You have to procure more storage. You cannot, some of the storage cannot become downward compatible with what you've currently procured. So those are some of the challenges we've faced, and also in upgrading of our hypervisors, whether it's using on the VMware or on the previous infrastructure that was using KVM. So when we talk about procurement, what leads us to procure the kind of hardware we have at our data centers? So the kind of hardware that we procure is informed by the cloud solution that we are implementing or we want to implement. So for systems like VMware, we will consider compute. We will not look at storage because the VMware will interact with external storage. So if you're going to look at deploying VMware, we will think about what hardware we need in terms of compute. So we will get servers which have high CPU and RAM specifications, and we'll also look at the kind of connectivity. Do they have fiber ports? Is it just the Ethernet ports? How is our network setup? Those are the kind of considerations we will make. For hardware that will serve the Ganeti cluster, we will look at both the compute and the storage, because the Ganeti will use the storage that is on there, will interact with the storage, direct attached storage. Another factor that we consider in terms of when we're procuring the hardware, it will also depend on the budget that has been allocated. Another factor is support. The support in terms of disk failure. Are we able to get local support for the servers that we want to procure? What is the turnaround time for replacement of parts? These are the considerations that we make before we procure our equipment. And we also have to make sure that you run power and self-test before you deploy the hardware into your environment. So what have we learned from our experience at KENET? We learned that it is important to have a budget and always start small and scale as much as as far as you're able to in terms of what you have set aside for your budget. And always ensure you have a proper design that can scale, not to get to a point where you have a lot of hardware and you have no space to also expand. So design with the end goal in mind. So there's a delicate balance between the hardware to select, what platform you want to run, which OS to use. So this is also a consideration that you need to have in mind as you plan out a cloud solution for your environment. Also design with security in mind, security of the infrastructure, and ensure that you have technical expertise, have the people that you want to have on the team managing the cloud environment, have them undergo training, do lots of research, and always test before you roll out to production. So my presentation was brief. Thank you very much.